What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt, and today on the show, I'm talking about John Wick Chapter 4. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. We're also available wherever you get your podcasts, so drop in and leave us a good review there as well. Now, this movie did release over the weekend in theaters, so I had to go check it out because I was fortunate enough to go see all the other ones in theaters as well, going back to the first one. And if you get the chance, you have to see this movie in theaters. And not just this one, if you get the chance to see any John Wick in theaters, you gotta do it. Do yourself a service and see this movie in theaters. And any other ones that they release in the future in theaters as well. And I have to make a point to do this. And John Wick Chapter 4 is the perfect reason why.
Who is this? The Marquis de Gramont. Challenge him to single combat. Win or lose, it's a way out.
Obviously, it has Keanu Reeves in it. You got Donnie Yen, who is fucking fantastic as Kane in this movie. I'm going to get a little bit into him in a minute. Bill Skarsgård as the fucking main antagonist of the movie here. Rina Sawayama, she is fantastic in this movie as well. She's a newcomer for the Wick franchise. You got Ian McShane, who's returning in his role as Winston. Obviously, Lawrence Fishburne as the Bowery King. You've seen him in part 3 as well. You got Hiroyuki Sanada in this movie. Like Donnie Yen, he is fucking phenomenal in this movie, and it was awesome to see him in here. The reason why I say you gotta go see this movie in theaters, this movie is damn near 3 hours long. This is like 2 hours 40, 2 hour 45-minute movie. It does not feel like that at all. This movie is so well paced, and just like most John Wick movies, this movie does go from one big action set piece to another. Now, unlike other John Wick movies, this movie is very driven by other characters in a sense. And what I mean by that is you do have John Wick as the main character going throughout this movie, but you also do have like 2 or 3 other main characters in this movie as well that you do follow and you kind of go back and forth with. The reason I say it kind of follows these other characters more is because John Wick doesn't say too much in this movie, and I know if you're on social media, you probably have seen the thing going around that like Keanu Reeves only says like 300 words or something in this movie, if that. A lot of his responses are like one-word answers. You don't really get too much from John Wick in terms of a lot of huge, amazing monologues or dialogue or whatever, but it's really not needed in the sense of the story or what's going on. A lot of the story is driven by a lot of these other characters and what's going on as well. Especially like Donnie Yen's character as Kane, who is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he's kind of forced to do what he has to do in this movie. But I would say over everybody, Donnie Yen, man, I wasn't really sure what to make of him when you first see him in this movie, because when you first see him in the first scene that he has, the acting seems a little off. It seems a little, jarring compared to some of the other dialogue and stuff that's going on in the movie. But as it's going on, it really comes into his own. And man, coming out of the movie, I want to see even more of this character of Kane. And I mean, he's already said that he's being interested in doing some spin-off work with it. He'd be interested in doing that. So I would love to see more of Donnie Yen's character come back into the franchise or be in like a future sequel or something, because he was so awesome. He plays like this another assassin within, the Wick universe, but he's also blind, and he utilizes that within combat as well. He's always tapping on stuff with like his sword cane, and he has like this fancy gadgets that he puts on walls, so it's like a motion tracker, motion sensor. If someone walks past it, it makes like a doorbell ringing noise to let him know that somebody's near him. There's so many innovative things that happens in this, and it's hard to do that with a fourth entry of a franchise this deep, where every single movie is trying to one-up itself and top itself as far as action set piece and what it does. And 4 movies into not only top everything that's been going before, but innovate and do even more new things and do stuff I've never even seen on film before. It's fucking mind-blowing, to be honest. And it's getting such a great reception because of the amazing things we've seen in this movie. Obviously, the action is there. I mean, the action is the best that it's been through the whole series. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I come to see the movie. is because of the action, because it's not your typical action movie like you would see in like a Marvel thing or some of these other action movies that are out nowadays where it's all shaky cam and quick cuts to certain things. No, you're actually holding on these action shots and you're getting long, drawn out, choreographed fight sequences like you've been seeing in the other John Wick movies, but even more so in this one. It seems like the fight scenes go on even longer than some of the other ones, and there's even more and bigger set pieces in this one when you didn't think there could be. And they're doing certain things as far as cinematography and some of the way that these fight scenes are being filmed, especially toward the end. There's one sequence towards the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil it for you because it's so fucking amazing and it's mind-blowing and it feels like something lifted straight out of a video game. And that's exactly how I felt when I came out of this movie. Is I need to play a John Wick video game ASAP. I want to have the feeling of being John Wick and going through and taking out hordes of enemies and going through to the next stage of a level and then getting to the boss fight and having this huge drawn out boss fight for who knows how long. And it's the whole time through every set piece or every huge action sequence of this movie, I had a huge dumb smile on my face because it was so fucking entertaining. It keeps you on the edge of your seat your whole time. And there's so many, like, I couldn't help myself from chuckling and laughing throughout because there's so many kind of comedic things that happens and so many creative things that happens through these fight sequences where you're like, I would have never even thought of that. And yet it's happening here before my eyes, and I've never even seen anything like that, but here we are. There's so many mind-blowing things. And not only that, but there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of references and things that are done through the first three John Wicks that are brought back into this and given new life and kind of revamped and built upon. And I love seeing that. And John Wick emptying a clip in a gun and throwing the gun at some dude's face is never going to get old to me. I am going to laugh every single time that happens. He's going to unload a clip and then doesn't have any more ammo. I'm going to whip this gun at somebody and I'm going to lose it every time. It's fucking hilarious. And every time it happened in the movie, never ceased. I was laughing. The action of course is brilliant. It was masterfully choreographed and masterfully filmed. This movie needs to be up for some awards at some point for just like best stunt choreography, for like best cinematography. There's so many amazing shots in this movie. And one that really just comes to mind off the top of my head, I believe they're like Okinawa, they're somewhere, I believe in Japan. And John Wick is up on top of this building with Hiroyuki Sanada's character. And they're standing in front of like this building that has like these red neon lines. And the red neon is what's lighting the scene. And you also have a cherry blossom tree there as well. And just the way that it's lit with John Wick standing there with these red neons and this cherry blossom tree, it's such an amazing shot. And there's so many great shots in this movie like that as well. Just this movie from a filmmaking perspective is phenomenal, what they've done. And it just shows you how much care that they took into planning every single step of this movie to the T. And I mean, you could tell that there's so much care and so much planning in this movie as you're watching it. And I know everybody and you come for the action and you come for the huge, amazing set pieces, but throughout the movie, you do get some emotional scenes, and their scene was with a lot of heart. This movie has a lot of heart to it, especially with like Donnie Yen's character, who he's like John is, he's stuck within this, the Assassins organization, stuck under the table. And he has to fulfill these contracts or they're going to hurt somebody that he, within his family that he loves and somebody holds dear to him. So he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. He doesn't want anything to happen to his family. So he decides to go out and he has to, hunt John Wick, who you find out who's one of his best friends back in the day. And the same thing with Hiroyuki Sanada's character as well. You can tell there's a big bond between all three of those characters. And to see how the story pans out with them, it's kind of heartbreaking and it's heartwarming in a way as well. Some of these relationships between some of these characters. And I'd like to give a shout out to Shamir Anderson in this movie as well. He is also a newcomer in the Wick universe. He is like a tracker, or a hunter within organization. He doesn't really have a name. He goes by nobody in this, but he is also another character you follow throughout this whole movie. And he's like a professional tracker. And he has like a dog with him the whole time who follows him around and helps him fight and everything. It's really cool. It kind of reminds me of like the old game Dead to Rights, the dude with the cop that had like a wolf named Shadow beside him that helped him fight, and you get to play as a dog sometimes. It kind of reminded me of that in a way. But throughout the whole movie, he's interacting with John, and he's also trying to hunt John down and track him and keep tabs on him for Bill Skarsgård's character in the movie as well. And Bill Skarsgård, he plays a magnificent Bond villain in this. And that's the thing with the John Wick movies, other than like the first one with like kind of like the Russian mob bosses or you know, all the other antagonists in the John Wick movies feel like Bond villains in a way. Especially in this movie, Bill Skarsgård feels like a Bond villain in it. Just the way that he carries himself and the way that, like, he uses his accent. He just feels like a lived-in Bond villain. But he is fantastic in this movie as well. I feel like he's underutilized in a way. I mean, he's there in the movie. He has some scenes. He's a very menacing presence in a way, especially like in some of the scenes with Winston, Ian McShane's character. He's not like a dangerous threat himself, you feel like. He's obviously pulling the strings of everything else in this movie, but he's not like a menacing presence himself, I feel like. And one thing I love about this movie is it's a huge love letter to genre filmmaking in general, because it has a little bit of everything sprinkled throughout. You have a section of the movie that's very like kung fu and samurai oriented. You have a section that's very like kind of a Western oriented type of thing. It gives you like kind of a Western dueling vibe to it. And there's another whole section of the movie that's ripped straight from the fucking Warriors, man. And I absolutely loved it. If you haven't seen me and Alex's Warriors review from last year, go check that out. I absolutely love the Warriors. And to see kind of a section of this film ripped straight from the Warriors and is a huge, homage to it, chef's kiss. It was amazing. And for those who don't know, I think it was in the trailers a little bit. There is a section of the movie where, like the other John Wicks, Bill Skarsgård's calling out all these assassins to go out and hunt them down. So John Wick's trying to make it from point A to point B, and all these groups of assassins are coming at him. In the Warriors, you have the Warriors who are trying to get from one end of New York all the way to the other end to their home, which was like Coney Island. And the whole way while they're getting there, they're fighting all these different gangs and everything. Whereas in John Wick, there's a huge chunk of this movie where he's trying to get from point A to point B, and the whole way there, he's just going through these different set pieces, fighting all these different assassins and everything. And the whole time between each little set piece, you're having this woman on the radio, and all you see is just the microphone with her lips, just like the Warriors. And she's announcing like, "Oh, it seems like he's moving on to somewhere else. Oh, you missed out your chance here, but maybe you'll get your another chance at the next place." And it's directly ripped straight from the Warriors. And I just had the dumbest smile on my face the whole time because I just loved it. And it's not just the Warriors, but every little reference to some of these old genre films is, it warms my heart in a way. Like I said on Twitter, I mean, I absolutely love this movie. I'm not going to even really go into spoilers too much because, I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend you going out and checking this movie out in theaters. Don't wait for it to come to VOD or Blu-ray or anything. Definitely go see it in the theaters if you can. I mean, Keanu Reeves outdid himself again in this movie as far as like action and everything. Apparently he did 90% of his stunts in this movie, which is outrageous considering what is done in this movie. It's wild to see he's been training for this, and especially at the age he is now and doing all this sort of thing. I mean, if he can keep it up, I am down for as many John Wicks as they are up for making. If they're up to like John Wick 22, I will be there. But overall, like the acting in this movie was absolutely fantastic. You got exactly what you needed from these characters. The music is fucking phenomenal as well. It stands out just like the other movies in the series. The soundtrack is what helps make John Wick as well. As he's fighting through these set pieces, you're getting very different kinds of like synth wave and techno and amazing different kind of varieties of music in these things. And it's amazing, and it kind of fits with the different set pieces and what's going on within the fights. And I mean, they top themselves even with the music in this one. And I want to make a note. There's something about these John Wick's movies. He's always running through like a club at some point, or some kind of a concert or a show. And I want to know what kind of drugs some of these people are on, because there's full shootouts and fights happening in the middle of these clubs and dance floors and stuff. And nobody stops. They're just dancing. They just keep dancing while John Wick's just popping and killing dudes right beside them. People don't give a fuck. They're just dancing. I want whatever those people are on, because they are just completely in their element, in their own headspace, just living in the moment, living in the music. and I'm sure as soon as the music stops and they come out of their trance, they're probably horrified like everybody else about the bloodshed and carnage that is all around them. But it seems like that happens in damn near every single John Wick movies, running through some club, shooting people up. You really need to see it for yourself. I mean, it is a John Wick movie. A lot of people really kind of know what to expect out of a John Wick movie. I mean, and it doesn't disappoint on that aspect. I got exactly what I expected out of the movie. And it also gave me a little bit more as well, because it does pull on your heartstrings a little bit. There is a lot of heart to this movie that I didn't expect to be there. There is certain stuff in this movie I wasn't expecting to be there, and it was a pleasant surprise to me, amongst all the carnage and bloodshed and ridiculous over the top violence. But I mean, that's really why we come, but we also stay for the story and some of those heartwarming scenes and the bond between some of these characters. And I mean, that's what makes it a great film, on top of the amazing action and everything. But overall, I absolutely love this movie. It's only in theaters, so I'm not going to give it like a buy it, rent it, or miss it type of thing. But I 100% definitely recommend going and seeing this in theaters. If you can't see it in theaters, definitely check it out on whatever streaming service it'll be on, or on VOD. But make sure you watch it on the biggest TV you can find with the best sound system you can find, because that'll give you the best experience to watch this movie. And I absolutely cannot wait until the next John Wick comes out, whenever that may be. The director did say they're going to take longer than normal between movies this time around, between part 4 and part 5. And I think that's kind of a good decision. Give it some time to breathe. We do have 4 full movies, and we are getting some spin-offs here coming up in the future. They do have a spin-off called The Continental, I believe. It's going to be like a limited TV series run. And I believe it's going to follow Winston, like a younger Winston, when he's starting, like he just comes under ownership of the Continental, I believe, something like that. I'm very intrigued by that. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I did see, obviously, Donnie Yen talked about he'd be interested in doing a spinoff as well for his character Kane. Even Rina Sawayama's character, I think she deserves her own spinoff as well, especially with the way her arc kind of ends in the movie. It definitely leaves the possibility of a spinoff, either, through TV or through a movie, or maybe if her character will kind of continue through the part 5, who knows? But they kind of left her story a little open-ended as well, so I'm very interested to see on what they do with her character as well. They did that on purpose, and I think they did a great job of kind of establishing who she is within the universe as well. So I'm interested to see what they do with her character. I believe they do have a spin-off series starring like Ana de Armas as well. I'm not sure, and I'm pretty sure Keanu Reeves is going to be appearing in that as John Wick as well. I'm not sure, but they do have a couple spin-offs that are in the work in this John Wick universe, and they are looking to expand on it a little bit more. And like the president of Lionsgate, I guess, came out and said they are looking to do even more movies in the future, and he would love to have Keanu do more. So like I said before, as long as they are willing, and Keanu's willing to do John Wick movies, I will be right there opening weekend to check them out, because these movies are some of the most entertaining action movies I've ever seen. I, for one, am very picky on my action movies. I am not just down for just schlocky action movies. I am not into the Fast and Furious movies by any means. I'm not into like some of these other franchises that have gone on way too long past their, expiration date. But with John Wick, they do bring something fresh to the table every single time, and they do treat it with tender love and care. And you really feel like you really get the impression that they care about, and they're putting so much love into these movies, and just how they're presented to you. as far as you feel like it's cinema, like they say. You feel like you're watching a piece of cinema history at this point. But that is my John Wick Chapter 4 review. I didn't really want to go on too long with this on a long-winded review. And I didn't really want to go into spoilers with it just opening up this past weekend. So if you haven't seen it so far, definitely make a point to go out and check it out in theaters. If you have seen it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. If you liked it, tell me what you liked about it. If you didn't like it, tell me what you didn't like about it in the comments. But that is a review for today. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Cinema Trip Reviews. Also go check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We're pretty much available everywhere. Drop in and leave us a good review. And I'll see everybody next time.